Welcome everyone. My name's Ron, I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to our anniversary meeting, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. We're celebrating, 52 weeks of some of the best speakers that I could find on the East Coast and bring here to speak in Doylestown. And, I think back, they're the ones that deserve, the celebration, the sacrifice and the cost to them in personal time. In fact, our speaker tonight travels over 6 hours one way from Buffalo, New York, And somebody said to me, I think it's 5 hours, and I had to Google because I thought Buffalo's between Manhattan and the Bronx or something. But here our speaker's 150 yards from being Canadian. We are blessed. We are blessed, and if I had to sit here, if I start naming people. My wife, who never gets any credit, in 3 days, on the 28th of this month, it's going to be our wedding anniversary, 31 years, and I've been blessed with this woman who does so much for me, does more for AA than anybody will ever know, behind the scenes, and I always say, behind every good man is a great woman. I'll tell you, we've had a hell of a life together. There's probably, I don't even know what I'm going to say here, but I think nobody wants to hear this. I'll tell you what, we're going to get on with the meeting. It's a celebration. I don't even want to hear it. I always think of great stuff to say when I'm at home or in the car, and when I get up here, I'm like, whatever. Anyway, let's have fun. Eric's going to come up here, and he's going to start us out and enjoy this evening. We do have a 7th tradition. There was a big expense to this. And every dollar that we collect tonight is being sent to New York. So our children will have AA, so our grandchildren will have AA. Very important. So when the baskets come around, keep that in mind. And I'll hand it over to Eric. And thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ron. My name is Eric, and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Welcome, guys. Yeah. Should have disregarded that one. If you have any questions or would like to make this your home group, please see me or any group member after the meeting. The Conscious Contact Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands? Good stuff. Look at that. Are there any announcements for the good of AA?
Yeah, Mike, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Mike.
September 18th to 19th, we have Peter M. coming, speaking Friday night, and then Saturday, Peter M. and Scott S. are doing a big book workshop. So flyers are on the table, and it's for fun and for free.
Wow. Awesome stuff. Thanks. Anyone else? Hello.
I think it's May 2nd will be our 9th anniversary. We're having a speaker come in from New York City to give us a talk. We'd love for you guys to come down and join us. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
My name is Greg.
Greg?
The speaker who's going to be giving on his first annual Lollapalooza AA Weekend Conference, February 27th, 28th, and 2016, at the Crown Plaza out in Easterville. Vince Guy, Bob D, Ralph W, Valerie T. Just a ton of really, really great speakers. There's going to be food, there's going to be entertainment, stuff like that. So if anybody wants any more information, we have flyers, or you can go to lollapalooza.org, and all the information for registration is on the website. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. If you would like a CD of any speaker past or present, see me or Ron after the meeting. They are available free of charge. We always need help, so if you would like to get involved with this meeting and group, please see me or Ron before or after the meeting. And I'd ask Tyler to read the AA preamble.
How you doing? I'm Tyler. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome, Jake and friends. Like I said before, thank you for Kiko Alonso, and have fun with Sean McCoy. And this is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sex, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor imposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Okay. And could Conrad come up to read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery?
Hi everybody, my name is Conrad and I'm an alcoholic. I think I'll step away from the mic. Step 1, these are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Steps 1, we admitted we are powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us from sanity to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all the persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs.
Thanks for reading. All right. We talked about the seventh tradition. There was absolutely no smoking on church property, and please silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now for our speaker, Mr. Jake J. from Buffalo, New York. So if we could give a warm round of applause for Jake.
Hi guys, I'm an alcoholic. My name is Jake. Bodyguards. Honored and privileged. I'll tell you, you go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been going to enough meetings where you just kind of walk in and you kind of feel the vibe of the meeting. And this is a good meeting. I can just tell the people here, the camaraderie, people are dressed up. I mean, that's awesome. It just doesn't happen anymore, at least not very much where I'm from, and it gets me excited, and it's the type of Alcoholics Anonymous that I've been brought up in, and I think it's going to be nice to share my experience tonight, especially when I get to that part where I'm getting sober and I'm referring to the big book and people aren't rolling their eyes and heading for the door and stuff like that. I think I'm among fellows here, so thank you very much for having me out to share this 1-year anniversary. I am from Buffalo, New York, and I know what you're all wondering. The answer is yes. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. I'm a season ticket holder, and I'm excited about Shady, so thank you very much. We can't wait. You mentioned something about sacrifice, families and sacrifice, and it's where I'm at currently, to be honest with you. You get sober. When I got sober, I didn't have a life. I didn't have a family or a responsibility. I kind of just did whatever I wanted to do. And what I was told to do and what I needed to do was just throw myself into Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and detoxes and prisons and all of it, and sponsoring guys and having guys over, and it was just all AA all the time. And as a result of that, I began to develop a life and responsibility, and I met a woman and got married, and then we had kids. Now I'm running a business, and there's all these things that go on. And I often think about what you say, because she's not a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And in order for me to get here tonight, I had to drive to my friend's house in Rochester, and one of my cars is on the fritz, and the other one is not working at all. So I had to use the family car, which left her without a car, and she's home with a 19-month-old, which is, a lot of fun, a lot of responsibility. So she probably will never hear this tape. But when you said that, I thought I should mention her, and really just an awesome deal that we sacrifice. I'll give her the tape. That's how I listen to it. I'd also like to mention that there's a couple thousand of you out there today. This makes it sound better, I was taught to say a few things. First, I got a sobriety date. It's November 1st, 1997. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor, and I am a sponsor. And I've recovered from alcoholism as a result of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I no longer suffer from alcoholism. And I have a home group. It's the Three Legacies group of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we named our group the Three Legacies group on purpose. Three Legacies is unity, service, and recovery. What we try to practice in that group, in our own individual lives, in our sponsorship family, and as a group, is to be plugged into all three sides of the triangle. And then we found it was pretty difficult to call ourselves the Three Legacies group and only be plugged into two sides of the triangle. And I got to tell you that, my journey started with really just one side. It was that recovery side. And I had big book thumpers, and I was a big book thumper, and that's all it was. It was just taking guys through the book and having them take guys through the book and having them guys, and I needed that. I needed every bit of that. But I found that at some point I just quit growing. I got real stale, and I just quit growing. I got real rigid, and then I got introduced to service outside of that, and it just blew me wide open. There's concepts and traditions, and it's an encompassing deal. I'm always serving. I always have a service position in my home group and outside of my home group. And that's not extracurricular. That's a part of what my responsibility is as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I should probably start drinking so I can get sober. Let me pull this out. Okay. We'll resume part 2 at about 10 p.m. My story's not any different. I come all the way to Buffalo to tell your story, really. Really, it's a story of how terribly broken I am apart from God and His grace and knowing God. That's really it. I'm a terribly, terribly broken man apart from God. I was 11 years old, and I discovered alcohol. I was with a bunch of my friends, and I went up to my grandfather's bar. And I broke in and I stole a bottle of Southern Comfort. It's just what I happened to grab. He had a lot there to grab. I grabbed Southern Comfort and brought it up to the park, and we went into the alley at that park, and I cracked that thing open, and I took a full-on power sip of that Southern Comfort at 11 years old. And that nearly knocked me right on my butt. It started, burning and choking, my eyes watering, the whole nine. And I got a little bit worried. I handed it off, and I got a little bit worried as it came back around that circle to me, because I'm thinking, this stuff isn't all it's cracked up to be. But I'm here to tell you that I took another pull off that, and the second pull wasn't as bad as the first pull. And they got back around on me, and the third pull wasn't as bad as the first 2 pulls. And guys, I don't know if it was the 4th pull or the 5th pull, but something happened to me in the process of drinking on that Southern Comfort. And I can stand here to tell you today that I fell head over heels in love with the effects produced by alcohol. I absolutely loved what that stuff did for me. I loved the way it made me feel. I loved everything about it. The bottles that came in, the camaraderie. I loved the other people who like to drink it. I love people who love to drink. I fit right home in Alcoholics Anonymous. I love all of you. I just get you. I get it. And that's what I did. I sought alcohol for a solution. it gave me an image. It gave me everything that I was. It was my identity. I grew up in a neighborhood. It was kind of a rough neighborhood. And, I was real skinny growing up, and I had kind of a tough childhood, and I just didn't have a lot of confidence, and I'd drink on some Southern Comfort. One day I was woke up in the morning, or not Southern Comfort, alcohol. It didn't matter what it was. I woke up one morning, and I had a half a day of school, so I figured, might as well start. Had a couple of guys over early in the morning, and got drunk, went to school for a couple hours. After that, we went over to a friend's house. Their parents were gone all day. He had an open bar downstairs. And I'm just kicking back everything I can. And I'll tell you, this is characteristic of my drinking. I drank with some crazy people, but I would always separate myself, because after a couple hours of drinking, they're all done. They're all nice and toasty and drunk, and I'm like, there's still alcohol left. Why are you guys not drinking alcohol? Because I drink to capacity. I drink until I'm passed out or locked up. I can't physically get it, or it's just gone. And I didn't realize that was abnormal at the time. I thought I was the only smart one in the room. I couldn't understand that. I'm just drinking and drinking and drinking this stuff. And finally we left the house, and I was feeling real good, so I decided to get into 8 fist fights. I got into 8 fist fights, just walking around the neighborhood. And I won some, I lost some. The very last one, I definitely lost, though. I went up to the high school, which is probably not a good idea in retrospect. And we went up to the corner where all the tough kids hung out. And there was a kid up there by the name of Adam Stone. You can already picture what Adam Stone looks like. He is a tough kid. He's got several leather jackets. Smokes 2 cigarettes at a time. He's the shot caller, and he's up there and he's doing his shot caller and thing, and I take exception to that for some reason. I thought, who made Adam Stone the shot caller? I could be the shot caller. I can smoke 2 cigarettes at a time. I'd look that good in a leather jacket. And so I told him about him and his family members, and I found something out about Adam Stone that would have been good information going in. 10th grade Adam Stone had no problem beating the crap out of a drunken 12-year-old. No problem at all. He just pulverized me. And I can tell you that what happened as a result of that is I had a black eye and my jaw was sore. But for the next couple weeks, that's all anybody talked about, is how that crazy kid from so-and-so stood up to Adam Stone. He took it like a man. And I loved that image. Yeah, I can be crazy. We can do that. That works out fine for me. And all of a sudden I got this tough guy image now that it's all because of alcohol, because I was around Adam Stone when I was sober, and I just hoped he didn't notice me, for crying out loud. So I love it. I love everything about it. And there's a definite progression to my illness. Yeah, I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was taught to relate and identify to our book, the things that are in the book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And we sat down and we got to the doctor's opinion, and it talked about how what I suffer from is a threefold illness, right? It's spiritual, mental, and physical. I've got this mental obsession coupled with this physical allergy. And, we didn't talk like that where I came from, so that was gibberish to me. So I had patient teachers, and they taught me they broke it down for me, and I had to find my experience, and what does that look like for me? What does that look like in my drinking? And I can tell you that the obsession to drink alcohol, I'll give you an example of what that looked like for me, and this is just a random day picked. I can stand up here for hours and tell you, but a random day is I love baseball. I still love baseball. I love baseball. Then I was a good baseball player. I was turning heads. People were noticing me. I was a pitcher, and I wouldn't have missed an opportunity to play the game of baseball for anything in the world. And I woke up one morning and I had a playoff game, a huge playoff game against our rivals, and I was going to be the starting pitcher. And as I'm kind of waking up and coming around to that and thinking about what I'm going to do prior to the game, the telephone rings. And it's a bunch of my buddies from 2 blocks to the left. And they called me to let me know that so-and-so just got out of jail, and we're all over here with a couple cases, and we're celebrating his release. Why don't you come on over? And so I hung up the phone and I started thinking about that. And I was thinking, well, I got the game, and then I'm looking at the time, and I'm thinking, but I don't have to be there till later. It was a night game. I got some time to at least stop by. I probably won't drink, because I got the game. So, I won't drink any more than one. Maybe I'll have one or two, but there's absolutely no more than that. And I was like, well, yeah, I should go. I don't want to be, rude, right? I'll go, and I don't want to be rude. I don't want that on me, So for that reason, I'll go and pay my respects. And then as I'm walking over there, I'm going back and forth on whether or not I should drink or not drink or how much to drink. And, I went from anywhere where I was capping it off at 4 beers to I'm not going to drink at all. And it's just consuming me. I have no idea, but that's all I'm thinking about. That's all I can think about. And all he said was a couple cases of Budweiser. And my mind just immediately started thinking, don't drink or don't drink or how much to drink. And I walked into the threshold of that door. They had already tossed me they must see me coming because they had already had a can of Budweiser, and they tossed it to me, and I caught it. And that thing that happened to me at that park, that absolutely wonderful thing that comes over me and gives me that feeling, happened as a result of drinking that Budweiser. I could be sitting in my chair, and I get swagger. That feeling of, oh my goodness, this must be what Batman feels like all the time. If I only had his money, And I got to thinking about that baseball game, and I'm thinking, it's that poor team that's got to face me. I mean, it's not even fair. I'm left-handed. I should probably pitch right-handed just to make it fair. And I'm loving the way I'm feeling. And, I'll tell you that my whole drinking career, as far back as I can remember, I always had a reason why I had the second one and the third one. I always had a reason, whether it was, if one makes me feel this good, imagine what two will make me feel like, or, I want to carry this feeling right into the event or the situation, or I wouldn't mind feeling like this when the old lady starts nagging on me, or whatever the situation is. I always had a reason, a justification or a rationalization on why I had the second one, and they were all false. Every one of them was false. I had no idea that really what I suffered from was a physical allergy. The second I had that Budweiser, I was done. All bets were off. There was no telling what was going to happen to me. And I had another Budweiser, and I had another Budweiser, and then I had another one. And about 10:30 at night, the game, I was supposed to be at the field at 7:30. 10:30 rolls around, and I'm just kind of coming to it, passed out on the couch. A couple of people that were there that day that were drinking went to the game. And the starting pitcher just passed out on the couch. I have no idea what's going on. And I feel terrible, and I asked my buddy if there's any beer left, and he said no. And I attacked him. And I went home, and I went into my little dungeon there, and I passed out. And the next day I woke up, and I didn't know what happened. Some of the worst times in my life drinking was like the telephone ringing. The phone rings and you just jump out of your skin, or somebody knocks on the door and you don't want to answer it. And the biggest reason is because I don't know. These people have questions for me that I can't answer. And I feel stupid that I can't answer them. Because I love baseball. And they're going to say, why weren't you there? And what happened? And I've got nothing for them. I have no idea why I didn't make it to that game. I have no idea why I showed up to my little sister's thing like that. I have no idea why I overdrank again at Thanksgiving. I didn't mean to. It wasn't intentional. I don't want to do that. Yet I do it day in and day out, and day in and day out. And the phone rang while I'm going through all of this, and I don't want to move, and I'm smoking a cigarette, and I get the hideous 4 horsemen are upon me, and I got the self-pity running hard. And the phone rang, and it's a couple buddies from the blocks to the two blocks to the right of me. And I started to explain to them what happened last night. And they had a great idea. They said, we told you to stop hanging out with those guys. They're no good for you. They should have never let you get that drunk. We would have never let you get that drunk. And I thought, that's true. I mean, they're the ones that are the hosts. They knew what the situation was. Started feeling a little bit better. What else you got? They said, well, why don't you come on over? We got a couple extra 40 ounces of Old English in the fridge. You're welcome to one. And we'll sit down, we'll figure this out, we'll talk it out. And I went, Yeah, that sounds good. And I went 2 blocks to the right and had a 40 ounce, and I don't know if it was the first sip or the second sip or the third sip but that thing happens. I'm sitting in my chair and I get that swagger and I think about them and I think, it really is my team's fault for depending on me so much to win these baseball games. I mean, things come up after all. It's just a game. And here we go again. Day in and day out and day in and day out until I find myself, I stop going to school, just done with school. I'm running around with kids that are much older than me and much more interesting things than school. Well, they were interesting to the cops. The cops always seemed to be interested in what we were doing. And I'm drinking. That's what I'm doing. I'm drinking. When I was a little kid, I was in downtown Buffalo. For whatever reason, my mother was driving. I have a very faint memory of being in the back seat and we were stopped at a red light. And I looked over and I seen this man who looked cold and tired and grungy and dirty and defeated. And he's walking really slow. And all of a sudden he got excited and he dove after something that was on the sidewalk. And I looked to see what it was, and it was somebody else's half-smoked cigarette. And he brushed it off and he stuck it in his mouth and the light turned green and we zoomed off. And that image was burned in my mind. I was just a very little kid and I remember rifling all kinds of questions at my mother about what I had just saw. I just couldn't understand how somebody would get themselves to that place in life. I think I was asking questions like, where was his parents? Why doesn't he have a place to go and all these different things? And she did the best she could with answering them. But I had no comprehension of that at that time. Now I'm 15 years old and I've got 9 warrants out for my arrest, 7 of which are violent. I went from being the most popular kid in a 3 neighborhood radius to I've got nobody to call and anywhere to go. Nowhere. I'm freezing. Buffalo's cold. Everything you heard is true. It's cold. It's not a fun place to be homeless. And I'm nervous every night because I can start to feel my lips turn blue and I can't get frostbite. I can't afford to go to the hospital because of the warrants. I don't want to go to jail. So I'm breaking into cars just to get out of the elements for a couple hours to try to survive. And I'm doing things that I'm out there and I'm breaking into homes and I'm breaking into cars and I'm mugging people and I'm purse snatching and I'm doing all of that stuff. And the interesting thing is every time I hurt somebody, every time I stole from you and hurt you and brought you to the ground to get your purse, the justification was the same, is I need someplace to stay that's warm. I wouldn't do this, but man, I've got to get out of these elements and stay warm. And I would do it and I'd get the score and I'd count the cash and I'd go, but I'm awfully thirsty. Not once did I ever spend any of that money on food or shelter. It all went to the drink. Every last bit of it. And I'm sitting out there and I'm cold and I'm homeless and I'm drunk, but I got a little bit of Jack Daniels left, and I love Jack Daniels. And I was able to score some earlier that day, and I got just a little bit left in my coat pocket, but I don't want to finish it off and not have a cigarette. And I'm looking everywhere. I'm going to the Bon-Ton and Tops and Target and all the prestigious stores where rich people smoke half of a cigarette and put the rest out in the cigarette butts, and they're just emptied. And I'm desperate. And all of a sudden I look down and I see something, and it's somebody else's half-smoked cigarette. And my whole world lit up. Dove after it. I was able to save it. A little bit of cigarette surgery, but we were able to save it. And I got it in my mouth and I lit it and I pulled out that Jack Daniels and I looked at it and thanked it. Thanked it for getting me through. Thank God. At least I got you. They don't understand. They don't get it. They don't. They can't get it. I can't even communicate with them anymore. And I finished that off and I tucked into a abandoned car somewhere and I dozed off to get up the next day and do it all over again. The only option I had was to live with my father. And I gotta tell you, I hated my father with a vengeance. I absolutely hated him. And we throw that word around. I literally at one point was walking down the street. I hadn't seen him in a few years. And I seen him. He was on a rooming house porch in a bad neighborhood. And he was drinking with his buddies. They were all the old street has-beens. And they're out there drinking, and this homicidal feeling came over to me. I knew that if I took another step closer to this man, I was going to take his life. And I needed to go that way, but I said it wasn't worth it, and I walked around. So there was no way I was living with him. And I'm out there, and I eventually did a purse snatching, and I got picked up by the cops. The cop pulled me over and said, "Jake, just get in the car." And I was cold and tired and lonely and a little drunk. And I got in the car, and I got hauled off. And I got locked up for a little while. And through a series of circumstances, I was able to get released on a black ankle bracelet parole. They got those in Philly? Black ankle? Yeah. They're fun. They're real pretty jewelry on your ankle. The state of New York had an eye on me 24/7, nonstop. And one of the stipulations was, we can test you anytime, day or night, 2-3 times a day if we want to. You're going to pee on this and you're going to blow on this. And if numbers come up on either one, you're violated. Now, I'll tell you, I'm just like the guy in the book. My drinking career wasn't characterized by trying to quit drinking. Because why would you try to quit drinking? I love drinking. I need to figure out how to make it work. I'm obsessed with the idea of how can I drink the way I want to drink. I don't want to drink normal. I have no interest in drinking normal. I want to drink the way I like drinking, the way it works for me without all the other consequences that go around it, right? So I'd get into a nice relationship, and all of a sudden it looked like the relationship was stopping me from being able to drink the way I want to drink. Guess what happened to the relationship? Guess what happened to the job? Guess what happened to the baseball and the family and everything in my life? Because I'm obsessed with this idea that I can somehow make it work, that I can somehow drink the way I want to drink. And that's characterized as my drinking career. This is the first time in my life somebody says, you cannot drink. Physically, you can't do it. And I never tried to not drink before, so I said, cool. That's an easy bargain, man. I get to get out of lockup, and all I have to do is not drink and play nice for a year. I never once crossed my mind that maybe I couldn't quit drinking. Never even crossed my mind. And I was reformed. I got out of there, and I was reformed. And you'd have a different speaker tonight if that was the truth. 6 days go by, and my buddy stops by. He heard I got out, and we're talking for a little bit, and he goes, "Have you celebrated?" And I said, "Yeah, it's good to be out, And he said, No, have you celebrated?" And he opened his jacket pocket, and there was a bottle of Goldschlager there. And I instantly realized that I was talking to the world's smartest man. I haven't celebrated. If you come to think of it, I really haven't, though. Really, because, I've been homeless. I've been cold. I've been locked up. I've had to survive. Oh, a drink. I just want a drink. I just want a drink. I just need this. I need this a little bit. I deserve it. I've just been through all this stuff. I just love the idea of just that feeling coming back one last time. I'm not going to drink after this. No more. This is going to be it. I'm going to celebrate, and we're going to be done, and that's going to be the end of it. And I pulled that Goldschlager up to my lips. Don't know if it was the 4th or 5th or 6th pull, guys, but that same thing happened. That swagger came over, and that ease came up across me. And it became very, very difficult for me to draw a sober breath after that. Very difficult. And it got to the point where I used to say that alcohol quit working, and I don't believe that it did quit working. I think alcohol is alcohol. They didn't reduce hops in the beer I was drinking or lower the proof. I guess what happens to me is that I have alcoholism, and it's a progressive illness, and it progresses whether I'm drinking or not. And I became so sick in my alcoholism that the one thing that used to work just wasn't cutting it anymore. I couldn't even self-medicate anymore. That's how sick I was getting in my alcoholism. And then I began to develop a strong desire to not drink anymore. I really, really honestly didn't want to drink anymore. And I'm going to different classes and outpatients, different things that are trying to help me. I'm hearing a lot of sane, rational ideas about how to not drink. And they make great sense. They make great sense. They'd say things like, remember the worst before the first, right? They'd say, you got to play the tape all the way through. Every time you want to drink, what do you picture? And I said, I picture having a martini at a piano. I've never had a martini, and I've never sat at a piano. But when I picture myself drinking, that's what it looks like. And they'd say, well, that's not reality. You got to remember to think it through, remember what it was like to be homeless and stuff. And I think that's a really good idea. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to think it through. And they said change people, places, and things, and that was a great idea because all you had to do is look at the cast of characters I'm hanging out with. No, I'm not going anywhere very soon. Well, nowhere desirable. And it made sense. It was sane and rational. And they said things like, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you need to do is choose not to drink. And I thought, yeah, make it a priority. Make not drinking a priority. Never tried that before. It makes a lot of sense. It's very sane. Well, I didn't know that where alcohol is concerned, I am insane. And I needed to have that experience to gain that conviction and that truth in my life. Because what would happen to me is I would think, I want to drink. I want to drink really bad. And I'd think, oh, nope. Remember being homeless. Remember what that was like. Remember jail. Remember the ankle bracelet. You're still wearing it. Just look down. There it is. Okay. It's still there. And I go, oh, phew. That worked. Okay, we're not drinking today. And I'd wake up the next morning, I'd say, I choose not to drink today. And a few hours would go by, and I'd think, oh my God, I want to drink. What am I going to do? And I'd look around, I'm back in the projects. And I go, I got to get out of here. I got to leave these guys. And I go, see you guys. And I must look crazy. I just popped up, bye, and ran out of there as fast as I could. And I didn't drink. And I thought, oh my God, thank God. Thank God. And meanwhile, my family's watching this, and they're watching a day or 2 days and 3 days and 4 days go by, and I'm starting to look a little bit better, and I'm starting to sound a little bit better, and I'm getting excited because finally maybe I can get some control of my life again, and we can get a job and just get on with my life for the first time, and my family can just relax. The way it looked at my drinking was they were sleeping, my stepdad on one side, my mother on the other side, my little baby sister in between, and a baseball bat on each side. I mean, we destroyed this family. They couldn't have any peace or safety in their own home because of the way I was drinking. They didn't know who I'm owing money to or what condition I'm going to be in. And I'm building this thing up. Well, finally, maybe he's finally turning the corner. And it would be Thursday afternoon, and I'd be out there. I'd be walking down the street, and I'm thinking, wow, that was a good day at work. I should drink. And I go, yeah, you should. And none of it was available to me. The pain and the suffering wasn't available to me. The fact that I made a decision or not drinking was a priority. The fact that I didn't want to drink played no part whatsoever in the fact that I drank again that very day. I mean, what do you do? That beat me down. I got to August 19th, 1997, I wanted to kill myself because I knew I had no more reasons or rationalizations or excuses for why I was so pathetic. I had no idea why I was so pathetic. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it to my family anymore or myself, and I couldn't live like that anymore. I didn't realize that I, at certain times, have no defense against the first drink, that I'm powerless over alcohol. So anything I come up with to do about that, it's not going to work. Where alcohol is concerned, I'm insane. I can't wake up this morning and choose not to drink. I can, however, wake up this morning and pursue a relationship with God and follow spiritual direction. And as a result, he takes it from me. It's gone. It better be, or I'm drinking again. It's that simple. I got 12-stepped that August 19th, 1997, by a man who was armed with the facts about himself. And he never told me not to drink. He just told me what it was like when he drank. And I didn't know that anybody else had that experience and all those thoughts and feelings and emotions that went around drinking. And I became sold. I said, what do I got to do? And he said, well, I'll be at your house tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and we'll pick you up and go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I immediately thought I overreacted. That seemed drastic. I mean, can't we just talk once a week on the phone? Or, I mean, I'm on probation. I can't be hanging out with a bunch of alcoholics, known criminals and things. But he won me over. I mean, the honest to God's truth was he won me over. I would have done just about anything he said. I was just interested, if for no other reason I'm interested. And he brought me to a room full of men and women who, just looked just like this. And I started going to meetings, and lots of meetings. And I loved it. I loved Alcoholics Anonymous. I always wondered what it was about Alcoholics Anonymous. And it was some years where I realized that the greatest feeling that I felt in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, when I'm here, I felt it when I walked in, I felt it at every meeting I've been to, safe. Safe. And I don't think I've ever really felt that feeling prior to coming to you. It was awesome. I loved the feeling of just safe. And I can tell you, I mean, you come to my home group on a Monday night at 8 o'clock, I don't care what you look like, what you sound like, what you talk like, you're going to be safe. And you're going to have a safe feeling. And it's on purpose. We don't let people predator our women in Alcoholics Anonymous. We don't do it. Or men. We stand up for our members and we make sure that we maintain a safe atmosphere. That's not always the popular thing to do, but lives are on the line. Lives are on the line. And so I was safe, and I would love that feeling of safety. And it seemed like Alcoholics Anonymous, the meetings was changing me because there's power here, and you get that safety, and I'd feel better. But what would happen to me is after a few months, I'd come here, and I would go home, and after around midnight, 12:30, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, I'm like bouncing off the walls, crazy, insane, depressed. I don't know what's going on. I got to go to work tomorrow. I don't want to go to work tomorrow. Yes, I do. No, I don't. I do. No, I really don't, though. And then I'm thinking, why don't I just become a criminal again? That was so much easier than all this. I mean, this makes no sense to me. And I would just be going, and it gets to a point where I'd physically attack somebody. I would attack complete strangers. I'd put my hands on them and hurt them, and I didn't want to do that. But it had to go somewhere. And I go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I would be prepared to spill my guts and tell you how crazy I am. But I'd walk into the threshold of that door, and I'd feel that safety and that power and that love, and I'd feel better. And by the time I got to the coffee pot, somebody would say, "How you doing?" And I'd say, "Glad I'm at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous." And they'd say, "Well, you're in the right place. Keep coming back." And it'd make me feel better. Make me feel better. I did that for as long as I possibly could, and then I got drunk again. And I got really drunk. And I almost violated parole. And I didn't know what to do, and I came right back to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I went to meetings, and finally, about 3 months when I was suicidal, that's all I could do was think about committing suicide. I ran to a bunch of people who were carrying big books of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's not that I just ran into them. I saw them over there. You know, I avoided them. They just seem drastic to me. It seems drastic, right? I mean, really, why would you want to make a decision to turn your will and life over to a God when you can just go to meetings and have? And I think that's just it, right? I mean, I literally have friends back in Buffalo. They don't understand me. They think that I'm drastic, and they're sober a long time. And I go, that's great, man. I'm not here to change anybody's message. It's not my responsibility to change anybody's message. It's my responsibility to come here and share my experience and what's in this book, because that's what I've been charged to do. And my usefulness to the next alcoholic, as God has put in my life, depends on it. So that's usually what I get. I get the sick of the sick of the sick, right? That's who's usually asking me to sponsor, because that's what I am. I'm the guy that, like, when I put down drinking, the problems start. Drinking isn't my problem. The problem is I'm selfish and self-centered and self-seeking to the core. I'm an extreme example of self-run riot. I'm a producer of confusion rather than harmony, even when I'm trying not to be. And as deadly as I'm driven by 100 forms of fear and self-pity, and as deadly as all that stuff is, the most deadly thing about all of it is I don't think so. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a good guy. I'm a people pleaser. That was a slap in the face when I found out there's no such thing as a people pleaser. I'm a self-pleaser. I'm obsessed with me. And I'm obsessed with me because I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid. So these guys sat me down, and I saw that I was powerless over alcohol, and I had become unmanageable. And it become unmanageable because I have no idea how to live. I don't know. And so they said, well, step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than yourself could restore you to sanity. And I said, well, this is where we part ways. I don't believe in God. And they said, who cares? It's not what we're asking you. What do you mean? I mean, everybody's talking about God. I don't believe in God. That's certainly going to make you fight me, right? Let's fight. Let's do this. And they go, no, we don't care if you believe in God or not. It's not an issue. You don't have to believe in God at all. Just take the second step. And what don't you believe about God? And I list all these things at them. He's this and this and this. And they patiently listened, jot a couple things down. And they turned the list and said, does that look about accurate? Does that look about right? And I said, yeah. And he went, great, stop believing that stuff about him. What do you mean? Change your mind. Just stop believing that stuff. How about this? What would you like God to be? And I went, dude, I don't think you can do that. And they said, maybe we can't, but let's try it anyways. And so I said things like, well, he should be like my boy. He should be on my side all the time, no matter what. Like if I go out there and I kill people and do all that stuff, he should still be on my side. And they went, cool. Good deal. That works. Well, I should be able to mess up as much as I need to mess up, and he should not lose interest in me or favor. And they're like, never heard that before, but that sounds good. Right? I'm just describing an unconditional loving God, man. I didn't know that. It just made sense to me. It made sense to me. It was what I would have liked to have seen a God be. And then at the third step, they said, now make a decision to turn your will in life, not into the thing that you said you're not going to believe in anymore, but in the thing we just wrote down. This is what you're going to turn your life and will over. And I said, well, what's a life and a will? They said, that thing that New York State has right now. They said, your will is your thought processes, and your action is your life is your actions. And you're broken. You're broken from the inside out. You're looking at life through a very skewed, broken lens, and you've got to get rid of it. And we went to that book where it talks about I must be rid of self or it kills me, and I can't do it without his aid. And I said, well, man, I need some time here. Why don't I bring it up at meetings? And I mean, if I'm going to turn my will and life over to the care of God, it's going to take some time. And they were like, you don't have to turn your will and life over to the care of God. I was slow. I didn't really read what was there. I just needed to make the decision. Open my mind. Become prepared. I don't really have to do that until 6 and 7. I can't. It's not possible. I don't know what's making me tick. I don't even know what to turn over to him. I have no idea. One of the things that we read all the time is how it works. I don't know if I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking about what I was going to say, so I don't know what they did here. But it talks about grasping and developing a manner of living, a way of life, and how it works. And for many years I missed that. And I hear all the time, and I've been guilty of it, where I talk about, well, I'm too new at all this to understand the steps, or to understand these spiritual principles. I've been at this thing for over 17 years, and I don't understand any of it. It's not about an intellectual journey, it's about having an experience. And our book's real clear. When are you ready to take the steps? When you're ready to go to any lengths. You're ready. I don't care if you've got 1 day or 1 year or 100 years, 20 years. It doesn't matter. When you're there, you're there. It's time to go. The understanding just gets in the way, in my experience. Once I've taken and had that experience, that's the grasping. Now I've got the rest of my life to develop an understanding and effectiveness. And so I did this stuff wrong, every one of them. And as a result, I had a spiritual awakening. Because it's about God. It's about the attempt to die to self and allow this thing in my life and it just happens. It just happens. If I've got a good teacher and a good big book and we're ready to go, I can just try. And I wrote the worst inventory I ever wrote in my life in that second. And the first guy on there was my dad. Who are you resentful at, Dad? Why? What does it affect? Everything. All of it. All of it. Right? And it says, where were we to blame? Well, what are our own mistakes? And I spelt it out. I won't spell it out here. F you. That's what I wrote. Because I thought, how are you going to ask me? I mean, I'm a little kid. A lot of this stuff happened. F you. Where's my mistakes? That's where. I couldn't wait to do the fifth step. I was worried about the fifth step. I can't wait because I got this F you. I'm going to tell my sponsor. I was excited. And he said, well, I got there and I said, F you. I'm always trying to fight these guys, and they just wouldn't do it. And he went, well, he said, well, I can understand where that upsets you. And I'm like, always understanding. He said, have you ever tried to forgive him? And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Did you not read everything he did? That stuff's not okay. And he said, no, it's not. You're right. I didn't say it was. Have you ever tried to forgive him? And I said, it's not okay what he did. He's like, I know. You usually don't have to forgive somebody if what they did was okay. This is my Angry Dave, one of the guys I sponsor. Real jolly guy. He's interrupting God's work again. And so I got to learn there's a difference between forgiving and saying that it's okay, right? And that forgiveness is a journey with God, that I don't have to let this hold me over anymore. And I thought, fine, I'm willing to be open to the idea, thinking I'm never going to see the guy again anyways, so what's the big deal? Let's just move on. When I got done writing doing that fist, about a week later, I'm at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and guess who walked in the back door? Dave, he's sick. It was my dad. My dad walked through, the guy I wanted to kill, walked through a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I thought, this is bull, man. I mean, what the hell is this about? And so we started that journey. We started that process. I got to learn how to forgive somebody. And it was a long, long road. And we never had like a Leave It to Beaver type relationship, father-son relationship, but we had a relationship. We had a relationship as a result of the spiritual principles constantly getting applied to it. And people in my life where I would call and I'd say, he did this, and I'd be so justified, and they would just put my nose right back into spiritual principles. And that's what we do here. I mean, that's what my fellowship, I create the fellowship I crave. I want to be able to call one of you guys and be crazy, and you guys just gently go, remember God, right? Remember the spiritual way of life? Because that's what Alcoholics Anonymous really has done for me, is it's given me another sheet of reactions, another way to live, another way of life. I only had one sheet my whole life. Somebody would look at me funny, and I go, what do we do about this? And I go down the list, looked at funny, and you go across, and it says, punch him in the nose. Come here, son of a, I had no other, that's all I knew how to do. And now I got Alcoholics Anonymous, and I can go, I can punch him in the nose, but let me just check AA real quick, look at me funny, love them anyways, and tell them have a nice day. Well, that's not as fun, but it works a heck of a lot better. And so I got this journey, man, and where he still just, none of the other family want to talk to him, and they think I'm crazy for talking to this guy, but they don't get it. It's a dubious luxury for them. I can't afford it. And I'm going on this spiritual journey, and I'm going, God, give me patience. And he'd call me, and I'd be like, this is how you get patience, right? You don't get patience by listening to polished speakers talk about their experience with patience. You get patience by being around people. Some of us are trying to run right now as we sit. You're thinking, I'm trying to avoid this guy. Why? Those are our teachers. That's how God communicates and builds and all of that stuff. I've got to become extremely annoyed before I understand patience. I've got to love the unlovable before I understand unconditional love. I've got to be very, very uncomfortable with what's going on with my ego and self and all these things before I can get rid of that stuff and just allow God to be God. And that's the process. There's always something on the table for me. Always. I always got something to complain about. I got this going on or that going on. Always. But that stuff's not bad. It's part of the journey. It's part of the journey, and I'm so glad those guys didn't let me leave that journey, because several years later, he ended up getting cancer. He called me up, and we brought him up to the hospital, and he made me his health care proxy. Here we go. AA softened me up, but then I had this little girl. I'm just screwed. I mean, if the right commercial, and I'm like, it's unbelievable how soft you get here in Alcoholics Anonymous. They don't even let me speak at the prisons anymore. They eat me alive. I got to go up and love this guy, man, on his deathbed, and I got to put lotion on his back and anything he wanted. What else do you need, Dad? What else do you need? And he'd say, "Can you get the pasture?" And I go run and get the pasture. And then it got to the point I said, we don't know what's going to happen, and you haven't talked to my sister Renee in a long time. What's the deal there? And he said, would you get her? And I said, I have to try. And I called up my sister, and I got her up there, man, and I closed the door, and they were in there for hours. And they were able to fix things. And things started looking better, so I decided to go back to work. And the very first day I went back to work, I got a call from hospice saying that he had took a turn for the worst, and I had better get up there. So I'm running, I'm speeding through everything. Grab my sister, and we get up there, and I walked in the threshold of his door, and he's just gasping for air. He just looks like a mess. It's just a horrible sight. And I'm thinking, you stupid son of a gun. Don't hang on anymore. And I go over and I grab him, and I'm holding on to him, and I got him by the hand, and he's not responding. I'm saying things to him, and he doesn't look like he's responding. And I finally just said, Dad, you and I are square, man. We're square. I'm good, and you're good. Just go. And he squeezed my hand and turned my way, and I felt the life ease out of him. He was waiting for me. I wanted to kill him. But there's this awesome power in Alcoholics Anonymous. Loving power, personal to me, that when I get out of the way can demonstrate through me how awesome he is. It's God. And that's God. It's not me. And then the cool thing was that he died, and I didn't have to run around like a lunatic and grab all the attention from it. I got to call the men to help me get sober, and I got to learn how to bury a loved one with respect and honor and dignity. I got to think about the guys I sponsor and the future deaths that they have upcoming, and I wanted to be a demonstration and an example of how to bury somebody and act like a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous and one of God's kids. And I did that with the help of you. And sometimes I was calling a guy, I didn't know how to feel. And I'd call a guy and say, I feel like this, is that okay? And he'd be like, that's fine. Whatever it takes. The 5th and 6th and 7, I go to God and I turn that stuff over in 6 and 7. And Dave stops calling. I can look at time. It is 9:30. I make direct amends to such people. Make direct amends. That's not anything I'm going to be able to do until I get there. And I remember I'm walking to this guy's house and I'm scared to death. I had spanked a board off of his wife's head a couple of times. I had broken the back end of their car, and I had threatened his kid's life several times. And he did something terrible to me for me to set this off. He said, leave my kid alone. Unreasonable request. And so I'm going over to make amends to this guy, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's just going to take my head right off my shoulders. And knock on the door, and I look up like, okay, you better help me here. And I started to explain to him who I am and what I'm there to do, and I get to the part where I says, what can I do to make it right? And then he starts looking at me really funny, and he goes, wait a minute, are you Jake Jaros? And I said, yes, that's what I said. I'm here to make amends. He said, the hell happened to you? I don't even recognize you. And I said, well, if you ever wondered if there was a God, turns out there is. And he's pretty awesome, and he changes people. He changes broken people, and all you got to do is be willing, and I'm willing. What can I do to make it right? And he said, my son's drinking himself to death. He won't stop drinking. I can't get through to him. And I said, I bet you I can. Right? Because that's what I've been given. That's the deal here. Is I got what that guy did for me back in '97 when he sat down. He talked about his drinking. He knew what he was doing, and I get to do that for other people. In fact, it's my responsibility. I sat down with that kid and I had him one over, and I said, "Well," he said, "What can I do?" And I said, "Well, I'll pick you up tomorrow to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous." And he went, "It seemed a little drastic. Can't we just talk once a week?" And I said, "No, get in the damn car. And took the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's not ready, and he's not done, but it doesn't matter. I was able to be of service. I was able to be of service to a family I destroyed. I was taught to always have current relationships with God. It's not about what happened to me in '97 or '98. I got in trouble in AA because I was talking. I get up at podiums like this and say, "Hey, when I had I got 7 years sober. When I had 2 years sober, God did this and this and this and this and this." And finally, somebody said, "Where's God been?" I mean, those are all really good stories, but they're really old, man. What's going on right now? And so I always try to tell current stories in that 10, 11 where I'm plugged in right now. And I got this beautiful little girl, and she's sleeping, and I got a book study or a book workshop at my house that we're doing. There's a bunch of people, and the people in that room I love dearly. They're members of my home group and friends of mine, and we're doing the book study thing, and all of a sudden my little girl, Ellie, decides it's time to wake up. And I'm like, and she wouldn't, it wasn't one of those like let her cry out things. She was up. So I went and I grabbed her, and I brought her out there. And all of the people I love in that living room are passing this little girl around, and they're just loving on her. And every time I watch one of these individuals that I love my kid, I just get filled with warmth and love, and I can feel that love. I'm a part of that. It's connected to me, and it's honoring me. And it was such a cool thing, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then she became a pain in the ass, and we got rid of her. But during that time, it was a good deal. And so I go to bed, and before I go to bed, I sit down with God, and I'm reviewing the day. And for some reason, I start thinking about that again. And then I kind of got taken on this meditative thing where it was like, now, do you remember that experience? And I'm thinking, yes. And he'd say, well, what if I would have brought my little kid out, and all these people I loved would have started picking on her and finding fault with her and judging her and saying, why does she have big ears? Or why is she so small? Or why is she this? Or why? It would have broke my heart. It would have crushed me. It absolutely would have. And then I kind of got that sensation of, well, how do you think I feel when you do it to my kids? And I was like, wow, I never looked at it like that before. I'm not here to judge his kids. I'm here to love his kids. That was a cool experience. Kids will teach you a lot about God. I got a lot of good stuff in my life, guys. I'm not the richest man. But I'm provided for it. And I can tell you that I feel like the richest man often. I'm driving here today with a good friend of mine, and we're laughing and joking and just free. We're all men that should be dead or locked up. And we're just free. We're like, what do you want to do today? Well, they need a speaker in Philly. Let's go. Right? We can do that. And I got this business, and I'm providing with my family, and I got a family and all this good stuff, and none of that stuff is why I'm sober. I'm sober so that I can carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the payoff. That's the deal. The steps are not a self-help movement. They're to get me connected to a power so that power can work in and through me. That's it. That's the deal. I'm not here to manage my defects or, over-calculate the steps. It's like a power strip. You get a power strip. I come in today, I have no power, none. I do the first couple steps, and they hand me a power strip, and I'm like, this should help, and it doesn't really do too much until I do a few more steps. Now I got the outlets, and I'm plugging things into the outlets. And I'm going, okay, now we're kind of getting somewhere. Then I get like in a 10, 11, and I pump that baby right into the outlet. Now I got this potential, all this potential power. I'm like, okay, I got the power strip, all the things are plugged in, and it's plugged into the wall, and I feel like nothing. And we always make the mistake, we want to go back through the steps. Maybe I missed something. But what I keep missing is that toggle switch on that power strip. It's a spiritual power strip. So it's not marked on or off on my spiritual toggle switch. It's marked other-centered and self-centered, right? And when that thing's plugged into other-centered, power is just flowing in and through me. I want for nothing. And when I stop caring about the next alcoholic, all of a sudden I don't make enough money. She's not as attractive as she once was, right? My home group is just, And then nobody was as desperate as we were when we got sober. Where's all the real alcoholics? And I just become more and more separated from God and from you, and closer to going back into that bottle. So I got to plug that back on. I'll give you a story. I think it sums up Alcoholics Anonymous. It certainly sums up my life, and then I'll close, and then we're done. It's a story of a guy who's drinking, and he falls into a ditch, a real deep ditch. And he's an alcoholic of a hopeless variety, and he's just started trying to get out of the ditch as much as he possibly can, all his efforts for weeks and weeks, and he can't possibly get out of the ditch. So he does the most drastic, desperate thing he ever thought of, and he goes, help. Took a lot, but he did it. And he starts calling for help, and this minister walks by, and he says, what happened? What happened to you? And he says, I fell in this ditch, and I can't get out. And the minister says, oh no, and he throws them literature and pamphlets, and they sit down, they read the Bible, and he gives them a sermon, and they say a prayer, and the alcoholic in the ditch feels so much better. it says I've got to speak in Erie, PA, or in Philly. It's a little bit late. And he feels so much better, and he's so grateful and happy. But the guy walks away, the minister walks away, and he's still stuck in the ditch. So he started yelling, help, help, help. And the psychiatrist walks by, and he goes, what happened? He goes, I fell in this ditch, and I can't get out. So the good man sits down, and he goes, that's fine, let's talk about that for an hour. He says, how do you feel about being in that ditch? Did your mother put you in that ditch? And they talk for about an hour, and he feels so much better, and he's so grateful. But he's still stuck in the ditch. So a doctor, you say, help, help, and a doctor comes along and he says, what happened? He goes, I fall in this ditch and I can't get out. So the doctor says, oh no, here, take a couple of these, and gave him a subscription and gobbles them up, and he feels great. He felt wonderful. But the doctor left and he's still stuck in the ditch. So he started telling for help, and he's desperate. And this recovered alcoholic's walking down the street with his big book. And he notices him. He goes, what happened? And the guy says, I've fallen in this ditch, and I can't get out. Without hesitation, jumps in the ditch with him. And the guy looks at him and goes, what are you doing? Now we're both stuck in the ditch. And the recovered alcoholic says, it's okay. I've been here, and I know the way out. Thank you for showing me the way out, guys.
Okay, we have a gift for Jake. There's a study version big book on the table outside, and we're all signing it. If you get a chance to sign that, please get a chance. We also have a book for the group that we like to save, so if you can sign on the way out, great. If not, next week we have Ante from Port Fishington. It's going to be a party every week. We got a nice way of close, and if you'd like to join us with the Lord's Prayer, let's try to be as nice as we can going out of here. And we thank everybody for coming out. Hope you had a good time.